bird man. Okay. So these are like, it starts with this steel plate. And then I basically bring this to that machine over there, like so. I will turn it on now because it's super noisy, but basically I turn this guy on. There is an image file downloaded to this guy, and then it basically like cuts out the shape that I drew on Illustrator. And then once it's cut out, it looks like this. But once they're out, they're kind of like, you know, these guys. And then there's also the handheld one that I actually go in and cut. It's like a fire laser thing. I don't really understand it. There we go. And then I just kind of like arrange these, you know, on like a plane. I weld them together. And I also like grind them so they get shiny, like these guys. See the difference? There are planes that are not shiny, that are shiny. Kind of put them together. I'm basically making a garden. It's probably important to note that these pieces, these drawings were originally, there are like the neurons. I just take like different types of neurons and I just kind of like draw on my computer how they look like. A lot of them are like Purkinje cells on the cerebellum, but it got too complicated. So you see how it's too complicated and it's too like detailed, so the machine can't really handle it. So I'm gonna probably go back in and do something, but yeah, I'll just look like, those are my markings for like cropping them out and stuff. And you know, it's like because like brain cells, they look a lot like tree branches, tree roots. I'm basically just taking that literal sense here and turning it into a garden. It's something that I've been interested in since last year. I think steel is like the ultimate way of like conveying something that is powerful, and I feel like the brain is powerful in its own way. But it's also like very susceptible to disease and fragile and all that. So, and I think like the way how we think about the brain is like, it's so random in terms of like how we feel, what we think. It's a lot of these like, it's not like a set pathway from like point A to B, but it's like a complex human thing. So because it's like hard to, I guess, like explain that through a painting, like maybe a collage piece, but like I want it to be like a literal sense so that the viewer can like come up to it and be like, you know, confronted by this, and hopefully confronted by the kind of concept that I'm working with, and maybe just have a newer perspective of themselves, literally. Mm-hmm. And I feel like sculpture, for me, does the job. Most likely I'm gonna like do some kind of lighting, because in between where I have like grinded, like against the light they actually shine and they have these like kind of vertical patterns, and I want that to be visible. So later I'll most likely play around with the lighting, because when you walk around it, like you see different points where the light reflects, you know, on the individual shapes. So, and probably some kind of audio, like a really cheesy garden audio with like birds or something chirping. But yeah, I mean, I'm one of the fewer students who like remained on campus since March. I've been here since March, and like I think the only interesting place to go around here is like the cross country, and I love running. And I did a lot of like photography work, so I kind of like saw the randomness in nature and tried to make sense of that, and then I kind of saw that parallel into like my coursework in neuroscience, I guess, and saying, yeah, like I guess that randomness exists in our own landscape or our own mind, and I kind of like made that connection, so that was pretty good. But yeah, initially it was hard, like photographing all these trees and roots and stuff. I'm like, what does it mean?